going on?
Sanders, what's going on?
It's Mega Maid. She's gone from suck to blow.
What? They're getting all their air back. Do something!
Do something!
Do something!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and obviously we've been covering the comic book industry's recovery from the pandemic, how it's kind of coming online. Obviously, there are current situations that are happening as we speak that are changing the situation. But I do want to talk about some of the mistakes it appears that Marvel has made coming back after the pandemic, as comic book distribution has picked up. And here to talk with me about that is my good friend Yul Carter from Fantastic Comics.
Hey there.
So there's an interesting article, like I said on the channel before. I wouldn't personally, don't go reading Bleeding Cool. You're going to get malware on your computer. It's probably going to kill your cell phone or your tablet. But they do have some interesting things on the website from every once in a while. They do have articles that are pinned by comic book retailers. One of them is from Rodman's Comics. I think he does a weekly article on there, and he had some interesting things to say about coming back online. As far as right now, Magic the Gathering cards are hot. DC Comics, everyone's coming in for DC Comics, but it doesn't sound like everyone's so hot for Marvel right now. Are you surprised about that, Yul?
No, Marvel hasn't really been giving us much of anything for, let's be honest, for a lot of people for a long time. In fact, I've seen a lot of people that would normally buy Marvel comic books actually buying DC comic books. And it's, it was even before Bendis moved over. But even then, there's people that followed over because of that. So it's legitimate, I hate to say it, why they may have got him. They did steal some readers. Marvel, yeah. And then now they're not really putting much out of anything. They're having a weekly. So one week they'll have issues come out, and then the next week they'll have trade paperbacks come out or hardcovers, collections, that type of stuff. And then they're going to go forward that way for a while until the Empire storyline happens.
July 15th, something like that. It's July 15th or 18th. It's the middle of July when Empire 1 hits.
It's going to be a while. I assume it's the reason why they're doing that is because they had most of it done and now have it done or will. And they're going to put that out weekly. And then probably by the time that is over, we'll have 10 of Swords or X of Swords or whatever.
In September. We
haven't really heard a whole lot of other stuff. I don't want Marvel to go back to their style of like 100 comics a week or something like that. Of course, I'm being hyperbolic when I say that. Even still, they have a lot of comic books and they flood a lot of stuff out. And I do appreciate a smaller lineup, but this is so small. They must have really told a lot of people to just not keep putting stuff, stop working on comics. I mean, we know we've heard about people being told to stop working, but with as little Marvel is coming out.
Well, we know that they laid off or furloughed a large portion of their editorial staff. We know that they said that they were cutting off 33% of their comic line, so that would be 1/3 of their comic books. And we do know that they did do pencils down, so they were definitely in a holding pattern where they weren't creating a lot of stuff, but they had comic books that people were reading before Diamond Comics, shut down, before the pandemic really took over. Like, it appears, a new issue of Amazing Spider-Man has come out already, according to Rodman Comics, that the response was tepid and people just weren't interested. And I can see that because I thought Amazing Spider-Man, after the Hunted storyline, just went to crap. It was just all blood. There's way too many tie-ins to events I didn't care about. I dropped the title myself.
Since then, I mean, the Hunted was okay. I like the art, obviously. Ramos is involved and other guys. Anyhow, I did like that. But I've enjoyed Spider-Man recently. And this reintroduction of GOG is kind of cool. But Spider-Man has been dropping pretty heavily for a while now. Even during the Dan Slott days, there was a time when it would go down and then it would pick up, usually around one of those major story arcs. But towards the end of the run, it was doing okay because, again, it was one of those story arcs. Plus, it was the end of his time on the story. But Spencer just really hasn't lit a fire under anybody with this title. I think he's been doing better lately, and his covers have been nice. But Ryan Otley, I think, was not the right choice for this. And I don't think Marvel really knew who they wanted to go with. I think they felt that since there has always been that Invincible comparison to Spider-Man, that this was the obvious choice to put him on. But lately it's been good, but God, Spider-Man, Avengers, who else would you? X-Men, these books have to come out during this time, and it has to be really hot, and it's tepid. Yeah, I agree. Sales have been bad on Spider-Man.
It's strange, obviously I would do my monthly comic book sales analysis, and I remember there was like 1 month and all of a sudden, Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk were both outselling Batman for a couple of months. I was like, oh, they're the best-selling ongoing titles, and all of a sudden I saw this huge drop from like 82,000 down to like 65,000 for one of them, and one of them was like from 80,000 to like 55. So I contacted a couple of retailers. I was like, what is that about? It's obviously you don't just drop that many readers. And they said, well, they were launching new important comics, so they removed the party variant, incentive variant ordering schemes associated with Amazing Spider-Man and Immortal Hulk. And those are likely more in line with the actual numbers that comic shops were ordering for their customers. So they were able to, adjust the number up, upwards of like 20% just by adding these party variants and things. So I don't think Amazing Spider-Man had been doing as well as it looked like he was. And I don't think that comic shops are going to be ordering for these, for these incentive schemes that Marvel has been putting out there. So if the real enthusiasm wasn't there, I think we're definitely going to be seeing it moving forward.
Oh, sure, definitely. And of course, that's anytime you're looking at sales, you have to realize, especially with Marvel, that they have a bunch of ways to get people to buy more stuff. And it's with those incentive covers and everything. And what you normally will see from a company is, oh, buy 10 of this and you'll get one of these. You may have to pay for it. Some companies give it to you if you order it. But what Marvel will do is they'll say, hey, we noticed that they'll say whatever you spent or whatever you purchased of number one, let's say, of this book, doesn't matter what it is sometimes. Sometimes it isn't even like associated with the one that you're buying. So you would think like Immortal Hulk, let's say. So if you bought, they'll say like, if you buy 90%, or sometimes it's 150% or something, if you're like, a really big book, they'll be like 300% of whatever you bought of issue number 20, Immortal Hulk. But sometimes they'll say, oh, it's not even Immortal Hulk. It's whatever you bought of Avengers. And you're like, well, I buy more Avengers than Immortal Hulk. Or maybe it's the other way around. It doesn't matter. Just understand they do this so that you have to purchase this in order to get something. And you're right, Wes. Nobody's coming in just to peruse like a normal comic book environment these days. And you can't just order all that stuff unless you're an online store. Online stores they'll get good money for those.
Yeah, because those are the most valuable comics that come out. They're those really rare covers that are valued in, prized by collectors, speculators that want to get, some of the more rare stuff out there. But yeah, they'll tie it to anything. Be like, oh, we got X-Men #1 coming out. Huge title. Everyone's going to be interested in it. If you want access to this one special variant, you got to buy 150% of whatever you bought previously on Runaways. You're like, what the hell does Runaways have to do with X-Men?
Right. I wish it was Runaways if they did it that way.
Yeah, Immortal Hulk, which is one of their top 5 selling ongoing comics, and you're gonna have to order 50% more than you want to just to get access to this thing that a couple of your customers are gonna expect.
Right.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, so that's how, and you're right. That's how the sales go when it's stuff like that, or it's an overship, of course. And very rarely is it the overship of something that you want. It's Jane Foster Valkyrie #3. Sure. Yeah. Well, actually,
that one.
when you get to the third or fourth issue, you're probably decreasing your numbers in the store by that time. Like you've adjusted by that time. So if you could get a third or fourth issue and you can get more copies of it than you would normally purchase, that might actually be able to help you figure out, sometimes people buy things late, it helps a little bit.
That you didn't have to pay for. It gives people an opportunity to jump on them.
Exactly. At least give it away, right?
But yeah, it's crazy. We talked about the things that Marvel had done, and they just this weird wait and see approach, and it feels like in a kind of a way they've kind of I'll say it, they kind of fucked over Diamond, because they put DC in this enormous power position to where they could just be like, you know what, Marvel's got nothing coming out for 8 weeks anyway. People need to make money. We can just drop Diamond right now, and everyone else will have to go on Lunar and UCS if they want comic books that are going to be selling, until Ten of Swords starts.
Yeah, it was funny because, like, at first, as talk about a tepid response, Marvel said that they would give a larger discount to their stuff during this time. And Image had immediately said, oh, well, we're going to make it returnable. Well, Marvel isn't putting out, again, anything, really. And you're right. DC stepped in and said, man, we're gonna keep going. And they cut the fat, and they're gonna go digital with the stuff that isn't selling really that well. They're gonna make sure that their big sellers, Batman, and anything Batman, is gonna come out, and it's gonna be big, and they're gonna make sure they put the people on it that are gonna make it sell. And if you can't keep going, if you can't come into a comic store for this, you're never going to come back into a comic store, basically. And you're right. Marvel snoozing. They have not done anything during this time. They haven't had any conversations that I remember seeing anything of. They've screwed Diamond quite a bit, I think. And I mean, maybe Marvel doesn't care because, they know they can wait this out if they even want to do anything. They could go straight to digital if they want. They could go eventually, I'm assuming, to Lunar or whatnot.
Well, I'm assuming once Diamond shut down, they broke their terms of service, and they don't have an exclusive anymore.
Anybody that has a deal with them, I'm assuming, unless it was like, a deal with the devil, they all should be out.
Because they just signed a new exclusive because they're a new publisher. But any of those existing contracts before they stop distribution on 1 April.
And then payment would be another thing, probably.
Yeah, if they're missing payments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least restructuring their payments has to. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I would assume that's probably somewhere in the clause that says you can get out. Marvel doesn't have anything, so them sticking with Diamond right now is not that big a deal. But when they want to really start chugging along again and being like an industry leader again, if they ever are, they are going to have to. I don't know.
Like they're the industry sleeper, with just CB Cebulski and his Legion of Doofuses just asleep at the wheel, doing nothing, just taking the pandemic off. It's time to watch Netflix. Maybe when the market opens again, we'll start working.
I think that's it. I really, it's been no secret that a lot of people feel that ever since Disney purchased Marvel, that Marvel's time was up. And they're still going, but even now, more than ever, it feels like Marvel's time is coming to an end. And maybe they could just spend a few bucks on propping up IDW so they can license out their characters to them rather than publish. I mean, I'm not prognosticating any closing of Marvel here, but tell me a company that doesn't seem like they want to be in the business they're in.
Yeah, if you were to look at the response and the way that they've handled the pandemic, they look like a comic book company that doesn't care about the comic industry. Certainly, there's no proactiveness. They're not going out there and taking charge and making sure that they're taking care of this industry that they're supposedly the market leader of. DC did all that, and they've just sat there and watched everything happen. So you can definitely get the impression that maybe they don't care, they're incompetent, or they have other plans, and they don't have the time to do that because they know they're going another direction.
Sure thing. We don't know what their plans are. And I mean, it's kind of like that inside baseball stuff. We can talk about it and they could have something going on, and then they're going to spring it on us the next day farther down the line, and they'll go, see, we had something. But as of right now, they just don't seem like a company that cares. And DC, all right, so I don't give a lot of credence necessarily when a company gives money out, but DC did give money out, and they talked about that Bink Foundation, and Jim Lee for 60 days in a row or something is drawing pictures that are raising money for that foundation for stores to get. And I don't think Marvel has done anything like that. And again, not that they would necessarily need to prove anything. It would probably just look like, oh, big deal. It's just some corporate money so that we can be placated. That's probably how I would, react to it. But even still, when I'm looking at one company compared to the other, at least I can point to DC, and as meager as their contributions seemed, at least it was something.
Well, I think if you look at the totality, what Jim Lee ended up doing is absolutely enormous. But then you look at Marvel, really the only person that's got any spine or gumption or even looks like a leader right now is Donny Cates.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he
doing it on his own, though? It's his own brand he's helping more than Marvel.
He's the only one speaking for him.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm not saying he's only doing it to promote his brand. I'm just saying that Marvel isn't served by Donny Cates coming out and just doing it, No, where's C.D. Cebulski?
Slide him an extra 20 or something. Be like, thanks for the help, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
The word wouldn't get out there.
And he's always been their best promoter of anything, better than the editors or anything like. I mean, Donny Cates, man, he's not getting paid enough from them. I don't think.
There's another thing that came out on Bleeding Cool. It might have been out on some other sites. I didn't really see it, and I thought was interesting. But Marvel are liquidating all of these omnibuses. This seems like something you would actually be interested in. I know that you like to sell omnibuses and trades and hardcovers because they bring in some more bang for your buck. Your readership tends to like the collected editions more. Were you surprised at the volume of omnibuses that they're liquidating and selling at very cheap prices to retailers?
They are real cheap prices. I'll say that. You have to get on those quick or else they'll be gone. A lot are gone. If it has John Byrne's name in it, it's probably not there anymore. I don't know how much it is Marvel or Diamond. Maybe just Marvel's this is a
space.
Yeah, I mean, they take up a lot of space. Let's get rid of them. This is helping make us some money, and also the store has a chance to make some money on a high ticket priced item. It's nothing uncommon. They every year they'll have their summer sizzlers and lists and stuff like that. It's just when Bleeding Cool lets the public know, it seems like a bigger thing than it actually is. I'm totally down with buying things cheaper. For sure. I can pass that savings on to you, the customer, with these items also. I know that there's a minimum that I can sell these for, and I can say, oh, well, this is a good way for everybody to make a profit in this situation. And again, Diamond's we got all this crap.
Yule, is there anything else that you wanted to say about what Marvel has been doing, what we can kind of glean from that article from Rodman's Comics and all this before we kind of wrap up this conversation about way that Marvel's kind of fucked up coming back for the pandemic shutdown?
This is it. DC has picked up the ball that Marvel has dropped, and if ever DC is going to be the main company going forward, it's going to be right now. And I would be interested to see what Marvel's going to do to get back to the top spot if they are. And if they do plan to do so, we could see some really good superhero comics in the future if that is going to happen.
I would
Hopefully.
absolutely love for DC and Marvel to go to war to see who could have the best comic books, because that hasn't been going on.
Yeah, I mean, a decreased, I know we're closing out, but a decreased number of books coming out that are all quality, or at least more quality. Woo! You could afford to buy both companies' stuff and let them fight it out in your room as you're reading them.
Yeah, it'd be like the Monday Night Wars all over again. But
Oh, yeah.
that's what we need.
Yeah, we do.
All right, Yul, I appreciate the time. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.